This is an Abbott banjo. It's actually made in London, England, about 100 years ago. It's lovely, very, very loud, like every good banjo should be, especially bluegrass.
And the banjo was a bit of a comedy instrument, a sort of music hall instrument then, was it?
Yeah, maybe. Like the 19th century banjos, sort of more minstrelsy era musical, wasn't really taken seriously. There was a big effort to try to gentrify it a bit, but didn't quite work. It still stayed quite comedy. Yeah,
So was it Earl Scruggs, was it bluegrass music that turned it into a credible instrument?
Yeah, I'd say so. Before Earl Scruggs, it was a folk instrument. It was used for playing for dances. It was played in unison with the fiddle. It was a sort of social dance music form, what they call old-time music.
Oh, well, perhaps you could play us a bit of the old time first, and then we'll talk about what the picking style that Earl Scruggs created gave us. So this is the way it used to be. Okay, it's nice, but tell us now, you're putting the thumb picks on as well. That's an important... Did he invent those, or did he just develop them?
He didn't invent them, but he developed and popularised them. I mean, before Earl Scruggs, the main style of playing was what I just played. It's known as frailing, knockdown, clawhammer, and you play with the front of the nail. It's kind of driving, rhythmic, percussive sound, and the banjo's an accompanying instrument, really, in that. Then Earl Scruggs came along and he made three-finger style banjo, very, very popular indeed. And for a long time, people credited him with inventing that. They don't tend to say that so much anymore. They prefer to say he invented bluegrass. And it's called Scruggs style often, that style of playing. It's become ubiquitous with him.
What's it sound like?
Yes.
It is really wonderful, isn't it? And when you get that, it's very hard to sit still, I must say, and that was what Earl Scruggs used to do to me when I was a kid, and still does. It just is really dancing music. How cool is the banjo? How cool are you playing the banjo in Britain these days?
Very, very cool indeed. I'm glad to say. 10 years ago when I started playing the banjo, no one knew what a banjo was, and I'd get it out to play at parties. People would ask about George Formby, ukuleles, get really muddled up, and now there's a lot of banjo playing going on. My phone book is full of other great banjo players, and yeah.
And what sort of bands use banjo? What sort of bands? I think you've done quite a lot of support gigs, haven't you, for some quite big names?
Yeah, me and my good friend Erin Joan Lewis, who's a really hot American fiddle player from Virginia. We supported Thomas Dolby for 2 weeks, had the honour of playing the banjo in Shepherd's Bush Empire. I play with Cut Shine a lot, who are a big barn dance band. We've got a big dance on Saturday. Good way to celebrate the life and times of Earl at St John's in Hackney.
And is it a special dance style? Can you just boot around, really?
Yeah, it's kind of country dance, square dance. It's called dance music, but we specialise in doing dances that are fun and anyone can come to and you can learn. I mean, that country dancing kind of has occasionally become a bit teachery and prescriptive, but Cut Shine for the past 5 or 6 years have been running these great, fantastic, joyous big dances that are full of young people.
And in the States, who follows Earl Scruggs now?
Well, without Earl Scruggs, you wouldn't have Bella Fleck or Tony Trisker or all the modern bluegrass banjo players there. I mean, it's impossible to say what it would have sounded like without him, because he made it a solo instrument, a virtuosic instrument. Before that, accompanying social music, and then it becomes art music with bluegrass, really, in a way, a song form. People take solos.
And it was Flat and Scruggs, wasn't it?
Well, before Flat and Scruggs, I think, I don't write the date, 1945, he joined Bill Monroe, who's the other guy who's credited with inventing bluegrass. He joined Bill Monroe's Bluegrass Boys, and that band played in the Grand Ole Opry and brought the banjo to sort of popular attention. And then Flat and Scruggs came a bit afterwards, I think about 3 or 4 years later.
Well, they're both gone now, but let's celebrate that music that they created. Just play us out before we get to the news.
Sure. I've got to put my picks on.
All right, okay, well, while you're doing that, we'll tell you that Earl Scruggs has died at the age of 88 in Nashville, and this is what he's given us.
This is an Abbott banjo. It's actually made in London, England, about 100 years ago. It's lovely, very, very loud, like every good banjo should be, especially bluegrass.
And the banjo was a bit of a comedy instrument, a sort of music hall instrument then, was it?
Yeah, maybe like the 19th century banjos, sort of more minstrelsy era music